Hello, good evening. This is U.S. Immigration Attorney Sharifa Tharpe. I'm here live to take your U.S. immigration related questions. I have a great topic for you today, and it is applying for the T visa based on employment violations in the workplace. Now, the T visa is for victims of trafficking. It could be victims of labor trafficking and sex trafficking. Both can occur in regards to an employer. And so I'm going to be talking about how one can qualify for the T visa based or T status based on employment violations, which could include abuses, it could include wage violations, it could include, also sexual harassment and violations in the workplace. And so this is a type of immigration relief that not a lot of people realize is available to them. And so I want to talk about it to bring this to your awareness and to help you to reach out and get the assistance you need to get this done. So I do represent my clients with the T status. And with the T status, once it's granted by the USCIS, you're able, and this is the USCIS is the immigration service here in the United States, you're able to then get your work permit and get permission to live and work here in the United States for the next 4 years. After staying in the United States for 3 of those 4 years, you're able to then apply for your green card on your own. You don't need an employer, you don't need a family member, you'd be able to apply on your own. There's also a very important benefit here, and it's that your family members will be able to get the T status along with you. Family members could be parents. Family members could be children, it could be a spouse who's also undocumented. If you are under 21, you would be able to have your parents, your siblings who are under 18, also get the status. If you're 21 or over, your spouse and your child who's under 21 could qualify for this. So the benefit not only extends to you, it also extends to family members. So if your whole family is here in the United States and you're undocumented, this can be relief that's going to be able to help all of you to get settled, especially after you've been through the ordeal of going through labor trafficking or even sex trafficking in the workplace. So what does this look like? Now, when we think about labor trafficking, what comes to mind is the typical, what we see typically in the media. Human trafficking involves, locking someone up in a basement or keep restraining their freedom in some way. And while that definitely does qualify as a form of trafficking, trafficking comes in many different forms. It's not just a situation where you're locked up somewhere or you are physically restrained. Restraints can come in different forms. It can come in the form of coercion. It can come in the form of fraud. It can come in the form of lies. So it's not just if the employer, for example, if they promised you, if you came here for a job because an employer or family member or an acquaintance, they told you that they could find you work, or if you were already here, you were already undocumented, but then an employer ended up having you work for them. They promised you your papers. They said they would get you your papers. They're going to get you a social security number. They're going to get you everything you need to get legal. You just have to do this job for them. Or even if they didn't promise you papers, but they said, you're going to get a good pay. You're going to get good pay. They're going to put you up to live at a place with them while you work, and it's going to be all good. And then when you go into the job, it turns out to be a completely different thing. You find that you're not being paid on time. You're not being paid the way that they said you were. Your wages they undercut your wages. They take withdrawals from your payment for different things. So for example, if they take withdrawals from your payment for lost equipment, or because you were late, or because they're charging you fees to live at the place, and that was never the agreement. This also these could qualify you. Now, if the employer starts to take advantage of your immigration status, they know, if you see that they know you can't leave the job because you're afraid that they're going to report you to ICE, or you're just afraid of what you're going to do afterwards, or you can't leave the job because you're not being paid and you want to get your pay, so you don't want to leave until you get your pay. These are types of forms of restraints against you that could qualify you for labor trafficking. Now, if while you're at the job, you're being blackmailed to do acts against your will, and those acts are sexual in nature. If you're being harassed at work sexually, if they're coming to you and saying, well, if you want to keep this job, you have to do this or that, that could also be sex trafficking. So it does not mean that you're going to be physically restrained. Restraints come in different forms and shapes. My rule of thumb here is, if you are being mistreated, if you're experiencing wage violations, hour violations at your job, you should schedule a consultation, and then we will do a more detailed evaluation to see if you qualify for this form of relief. Now, what's involved? At the point that I do determine that my clients they qualify for this, then we determine the best course of action. Now, this does have to do with labor violations, and it really, where we do have to report to law enforcement, but law enforcement agencies are also different. It's not just the police, but we also spearhead reporting to the Department of Labor in the case of workplace violations. And so what I do is I represent my clients throughout that process, because I do know it's intimidating. My clients may not fully understand how to navigate the reporting process. And so that's what I do. It is a confidential type of process. And while we go through this process of reporting to law enforcement, such as the Department of Labor in this case, we also continuously revisit the issues and how to approach your situation. So if you're going through this situation where you're being mistreated by an employer, they're skipping out on your payments, you're living on their premises, and you don't feel like you have the freedom to leave because maybe you need to wait on your pay, or you have nowhere else to go and you feel like you have to keep going. If this has happened in the past, it does not have to keep happening, or it doesn't have to be currently happening for you to get help. It could have happened 10 years ago. It could have happened 20 years ago. Even though you may have very little evidence, it's very important that you understand that your statement is going to be the most important. And we help you to draft all of the evidence that you need to show the USCIS for them to make a decision about and get you that T status. So go ahead, call, schedule the consultation, and then we can get straight to work to first confirm you qualify, and then we represent you through the whole process. We represent you through every aspect of this process, so you're not alone, and we do the heavy lifting to make it happen. You can go to the link in the profile, you can go to the link in the About page on YouTube, and go to the website. On TikTok, it's right there. The button is there for you to schedule your own consultation. And on YouTube, when you go to the website, you can go to the contact page, schedule your own appointment, or call us now. We are available to take your calls. Now I'm going to take questions, and I see quite a few coming in. Hi there on YouTube. Does a 10-year bar apply if I have multiple re-entries before I was 18? So with the 10, there's no unlawful presence bar. However, you do need to schedule a consultation, because even though you don't accrue unlawful presence before the age of 18, we would have to determine whether these multiple entries, what was the nature of these multiple entries. And were all of these unlawful entries before the age of 18? Because there may be an issue there. So we'd want to find out what are the circumstances, how long did you stay in the United States before you left, and how long were you going in and out of the country, to determine whether that, and it's very fact intensive. So go ahead, schedule a consultation, and then we can talk about that. And we can also look at whether there is a way around it if you're already here, what your options could be. All right. So let us go here. What happens if you overstay your visa? So you become undocumented. And at the point that you become undocumented, you will not be able to, usually you won't be able to work legally, and it could have some severe immigration consequences. So you have to be very, and it's a hard thing, right? When you're out of status, it's very hard to, it's hard to live life here. You have to find ways around the legal aspects of everyday life. You have to find a job that will accept you for your undocumented status. And sometimes that leads to these situations where you may go through labor trafficking. Now, it's going to depend on your circumstances, though. If you overstay your visa, is it that you're applying for adjustment of status? Because if you apply for adjustment of status before overstaying, then that staves off any kind of immigration consequences, and then you could apply for your work permit. But do you qualify for adjustment of status? Do you have a spouse, a parent, a child, an employer, employment-based permanent residence that you're going to be applying for? So how can I bring my kids here? So if you're a US citizen or legal permanent resident, you would be able to apply for your kids that way. After you get married, how long we have to wait to file the I-130? You can file it the day after you're married. There's nothing that says you can't file right away. However, is it advisable to file the I-130 right after your marriage? It's going to depend on your circumstances. I have my clients who they've known each other for a long time. They've been together for a long time. They've built a life together. And so they decide after years of being together, they get married. And then we file we file about a week after they're married. So it's going to depend on what are your circumstances. Did you guys just meet? And if you just met, then that would be the question. Is it advisable? Because really the I-130, the approval of the I-130 is going to be heavily dependent on the evidence that you attach. So you have to be very careful about that. Hi there, Jay Hind. If you never put I-131 in your adjustment of status pack, can you send it afterwards? Yes, you can. You do have to just show that you are applying for an adjustment of status and attach it with it, and then make sure you're following where it needs to go, where it needs to be filed. And that is available at the USCIS office. And we also help our clients to put that together, but we help our clients to get that. So if our clients want to apply for a travel document, we go ahead and follow up with that if we don't already do it. How long does it take to get a work permit after biometrics? So it's up and down. It really varies. What I'd say from the date of filing is going to depend on what application you're applying for. Can I know how long will it take to US e-request to answer back, and what are they working? So it depends. They usually give you a timeline when you submit a request. I would say at least 30 days, it may be less. I live in the USA, apply for husband I-130. He sent me RFE for my ex-husband, bona fide marriage. So you need to get legal representation, because if that is the case, if you are a permanent resident, I don't know what your situation is, but if they're asking about the bona fides of your previous marriage, you need to be concerned. So go ahead, schedule a consultation. We can go through what's going on and I can advise then. But if you are applying for your current husband and then you get an RFE about your ex-spouse, there may be something more complex brewing, and you want to make sure that you're protected and that you understand fully what's going on. How long does it take to get a work permit? So, it depends on your application, marriage-based, family-based. You could be looking at anywhere from 3 months to 8 months. For other types of humanitarian, you could be looking at anywhere from 4 months to 11 months. So it just depends. It depends on what you're applying for. If my travel documents send me wrong address, lost, so what can I do? You'll have to get in touch with them and let them know, and they, discuss with them about the lost travel document. And then if they determine it's on their fault, or if you can prove that it is their fault, there's no charge. Good afternoon. Is it okay to get married before 3 months in the USA and go back to your country? Schedule a consultation. That's an awfully specific question. And that rule is going to depend on your circumstances. Who is your relative? And so, for example, immediate relatives of US citizens, that's the spouse of a US citizen, the child under 21 of a US citizen, or the son or daughter, the citizen, the parent of a citizen, they don't fall under the 3-month rule. However, whether that's going to apply in yours or it's advisable to apply, it's going to depend on what's going on in your case. Thanks so much for that. I appreciate it. Good afternoon. Is it okay to get married before 3 months? I just answered that. Get legal advice. After you file for a T visa, do you get a letter with a number in the mail to track the progress? Absolutely. That does come anywhere from 2 weeks to 8 weeks after it is filed. Usually get that. It's called a receipt notice, and all applications that go into the USCIS get that receipt number where you can track it to see what the progress is. I would say that it's not, while it's nice, it's very comforting to see that. Sometimes you may catch it when it's approved, or there is a decision, or there's a request for evidence, but it's not going to change every day. The progress will not change every day. T visas are taking anywhere from 6 months to 18 months. And so that you can always use that number, or get an app that will be able to help you to send you notifications to track the progress on it. How long does it take to get a work permit after biometrics? I answered that. What happens if an emotional abusive husband abandoned his wife before the green card interview? Get legal advice, get in touch with me. This is exactly what I help my clients with. I help my clients to get back on track. Once there's emotional abuse, you are able to apply for your own process through VAWA, and that's going to enable you to continue with your green card process. And it's important to do it now, before the green card interview, so everything can be placed on hold and you can move forward with your new process. So important you do that. If you miss the interview, they may deny it, and that may complicate your case. You may have to pay for refiling fees. So go ahead, get in touch, go to the link in the profile and schedule that consultation, because that's exactly one of the things that I focus on my practice. How long does it take to get a work permit after biometric? I answered that one, so I'm not going to answer that again because I answered it multiple times. Is it safe to travel with expired green card and the extension letter? As long as your extension letter hasn't expired, yes, it is. It's now that extension letter, you have the same rights. And when we talk about extension letter, this is the extension letter saying that you continue to be a green card holder for, right now they have it at 2 years. Make sure that the extension letter has not expired. If it has expired, you can go and get what's called an I-551 stamp in your passport, which is also evidence that you're a permanent resident. Now, keep in mind that this is general information. I'm not your attorney, and I am not giving you personalized legal advice. This is where it's important for you to take the steps for yourself to get the legal advice and representation you need. Can I file a mandamus against USCIS on my own, or do I need a lawyer? But highly, highly advisable that you get the lawyer. Good evening. My stepdad filed for me and my mom. I got my work permit before my mom. Is that okay? Sure. There's nothing in that that's going to indicate that there's something wrong. DV 2021 case, how is it going? We've been pending for a while, so I don't know what's going on with your case, but processing times are long. So it's not strange that you have to be waiting for a while, but I don't know what's going on in your case because I haven't reviewed anything. After getting married, how long do we have to wait to file I-130? It's whether that's, how long it's going to take is going to depend on your particular circumstances. There's no law that says you can't apply the day after you're married, but the question is it advisable? And I would be able to give you that legal advice, but I have to understand what your process is. Thanks for the follows, by the way. Timeline for petitioning spouse in Mexico. So once again, I tell my clients, because embassies are backed up overall, I tell my clients anywhere from 18 months. So anywhere from a year to 18 months, maybe even 2 years. So that's the timeline. It's always approximate because it's always subject to change. All right, so I don't see any more questions, so I am going to head out. So I do see one more. I'm going to head out. I'm going to The Immigration Attorney. That's on Instagram. You can join me there. If I don't get to your question, join me there and we can continue the conversation there. How does VAWA work if not married to the abuser but have a child and have the FRO? So if you are considered a common law marriage, it depends on the state, that may be acceptable basis to apply. And then there are also other options. So I did mention the T. And if you're in a domestic violence situation where you're being forced to serve your spouse in different ways. So for example, if you don't want to be in the relationship, but your spouse is forcing you to be in the relationship, there's also maybe that option for T status, but I would have to evaluate what's going on. For example, is your spouse controlling you? Are they subjecting you to housework? Do you want to leave, but you can't because you're undocumented and they're holding it over your head? Also, do you have to, have sexual relations even though you don't want to? These could be a basis for T status. So go ahead, give us a call and we'll do a further evaluation. I-130 is 15 months and 485, 24 months. So not exactly. So I-485, I've had my I-485 cases resolved and finished from beginning to end in 5.5 months right now. Since post-COVID, that's the timeline that I'm seeing. 6 to 8 months for adjustment of status. That's a 485. All right, join me on Instagram. Thanks for the follows. Thanks for the love. I will be back on Monday. Today's Friday, so I do Mondays to Fridays at around 4 p.m. So I'm heading on over to Instagram to do the live there. And then I will see you on Monday. Thanks so much for your time. Thanks for your hospitality, your love, your questions. I will be back on Monday. If I don't see you in a minute on Instagram, which is The Immigration Attorney, same as here, then I hope to see you in a consultation. And Suki 876, it's The Immigration Attorney. You can follow me there because that's where most of my content is released. While I do lives there, most of the content is released there, where you'll see videos, updates, and so forth. So you can learn more about me as a U.S. immigration attorney. I do represent clients in all 50 states and the globe. So no matter where you are, I can represent you. Have a good one. I'll see you on Monday. Bye-bye.